Greetings, friends. I'm AK.
And I'm Laura.
And we are
the Chainsaw Girls. On today's episode, in the spirit of Halloween, there is only, what 3 days?
3 days left.
3 more days till Halloween.
Halloween, Halloween. Oh my gosh, that song is going to be stuck in my head for all eternity.
If you don't know or haven't guessed yet, we are covering Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
So it's interesting because we recently put on our Instagram, well, really, I guess at this point, probably a couple months ago, what is your favorite horror movie that's based on Halloween? And I would say the majority of the people chose Halloween 3 specifically.
Yeah.
I found that very interesting.
I did as well because I feel like this movie has like people that really love it or people that really hate it.
Yes.
There's not really an in-between. Maybe there is, but I feel like people are very divided on it.
Yes. And when it was first released, there were a lot of people who were angry that Michael Myers is not in it.
Yeah. I think that it disappointed a lot of people, especially because, you know, after Halloween and Halloween 2, Michael was like, he was pretty much immediately an icon.
Yeah. And now after 2, I do understand because after 2 movies, you feel that this character is now established. You do expect him to be in 3.
Right.
So to not see him at all with no warning, that must have been wild, especially to go to the theater and you're waiting and you're just waiting and waiting. You're like, okay, where is he going to show up?
Okay, here are the robots. Okay, I'm sticking with you. All right. Masks. Okay, he wears a mask.
Like, I mean, technically, do they show him? Because they do show the characters watching Halloween on TV at some point.
They do. He does make a little cameo.
Should we say he is in it then?
Technically, he's in it, guys. Yeah, well, I guess John Carpenter originally, he didn't want to make another Halloween. He wanted Michael to be done with after the first one. Received a lot of pressure from producers to do another one, so they did part 2. And then so part 3, he decided he wanted to go back to what his original plan was, which was to create different Halloween type movies. So
an anthology.
Almost like an anthology. So every movie that comes out around Halloween or that is entitled Halloween is a different story with different characters, different big bads.
How wild to imagine if that's what would have happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
I really do. It's just now Halloween is synonymous with Michael Myers.
Right. I wonder if they had done that with Halloween 2 instead of 3, if it would have been different. Because at that point, you've only seen Michael once. Okay, we're accepting he's not in every one. But like I said, after 2, you're like, okay, he's part of this now. This is about him.
So I definitely understand why people at the time were like really disappointed that he wasn't in it. Because I think if it was entitled, and a lot of people say this, if it was titled something else, if it was just called Season of the Witch, for example, let's just say, I think people would have loved it a lot more because they weren't going in expecting something completely different.
Yeah, like you're saying, it could have been a great standalone movie.
Absolutely, because it is. It's great.
Yeah.
I love it. I adore this movie. I think it's so much fun. And obviously, like we've said so many times, we love horror movies that are on Halloween or around Halloween.
Yeah. So what do you think changed? What do you think made people like it now?
I think it's like anything. It's like some things just turn into cult classics, right?
Yeah.
Like I think maybe it could even be like generationally. Like I wasn't even alive when this came out.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't live through the disappointment of thinking that Michael was in it.
Right.
So I come at it from a different appreciation, I think.
Yeah.
But like most movies that we love, like that we've covered, Slumber Party Massacre 2, it became a cult classic.
Yeah.
The Burning became a cult classic.
Right. Even if it wasn't received well at the time.
That's it. I think and it happens so often, I feel like. So yeah, I think that's probably part of it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Do you have the IMDb description?
Oh, I certainly do. I'm so glad you asked. Kids all over America want silver shamrock masks for Halloween. Dr. Daniel Chalice seeks to uncover a plot by silver shamrock owner Mr. Cochran. So this had a budget of $4.6 million, and it did gross $14.4 million. So it's not like it didn't do well at the box office. It did.
Interesting. It just wasn't received well by critics.
I guess so. Yeah. I think it was on like Robert Ebert's like worst list or something.
Oh my gosh.
Like take it easy, okay? It's not a bad movie.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie. And you can see the masks here that were referenced in the description if you're watching the YouTube version.
Mm-hmm.
We got a little skeleton, a little pumpkin, and a really creepy witch. I think I recognize the witch the most when I see it.
Yeah, it is. It's I think all of them are recognizable, but yeah, the witch for sure. And actually, 2 of the masks were already creations. And I have the note here. I thought it was kind of neat. 2 of the masks that are featured in the film, the skull and the witch, were actual masks that were already created by a company called Dawn Post Studios.
Okay.
And then they made the jack-o'-lantern one specifically for the movie. And I think at one point these were for sale through that company. I don't think the company's around anymore. It was bought out. And now you can get replicas from Trick or Treat Studios.
Ooh, I want them.
And I could be wrong, but I think they have like the original molds. Trick or Treat Studios has incredible masks. Like amazing. And their toys are really great too. I have a whole bunch of them. I spend way too much money at Trick or Treat Studios. But yeah, so if you're interested in the masks, you can get them there.
Nice.
Yeah. We're all very excited.
And you can sing the song.
You can sing the song. I won't do it. I have a horrible singing voice. I'm not going to do it.
I mean, we already did it in the beginning of this episode.
That is true. And that was already annoying.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
I think throughout this movie, as we were rewatching, I was like, this song.
I love it. I love it so much.
I like it, but after like the 3rd time, you're like, okay, imagine hearing that on a loop.
No, I feel like it's like, okay, you know how there are like radio hit songs that then like turn into like children's songs? Like they somehow turn them into like kids versions of the songs.
Like
you know what I'm
Kids
talking
Bop?
about? Yeah, like Kids Bop. Oh my God. Yeah, it's like my ears bleeding, honestly. That's what I think that equates to.
Which it makes sense because this is sort of hypnotizing these kids, it seems, to some effect.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. And adults too. I think anyone that watches a commercial gets like sucked in.
Yeah.
But it's like, it reminds me of like cereal commercials when we were kids.
Yes.
Like you're just like, I need Fruit Loops.
And then you sit this close to the TV and you get yelled at.
Yeah. It actually happens in this movie.
Yeah, it does.
Which like, that's the least of your problems, lady.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you.
Yikes.
Okay, so really quickly, it was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. He actually directed the It miniseries from 1990 with Tim Curry. Love it. Love it.
Love it. So let's jump into it, shall we?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. So we start Halloween 3 with a man running through a junkyard. And he's hiding from someone. There's a car lurking around, following him. He's ducking, diving. He's trying to hide from this car. Eventually, he gets caught by a man in a suit who starts strangling him.
I call everywhere in my notes, I just call him Suit. And then
Suit?
and then Suits.
Eventually, I just write robots
Oh, okay.
or robot man.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I think we said it already that they're like robots. We said something about robots. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Oh, and it's also October 23rd, guys. It's not quite Halloween yet.
right. Not quite, but almost.
Yeah.
So man in suit starts strangling this guy on the ground. I thought this was really interesting. So the man looks over, just so happens to see a chain connected to like a cinder block.
Yeah.
And he's pulling on it. And he pulls this chain that pulls a cinder block that was keeping, I guess, the car in place. The car starts rolling toward them.
Yeah.
And because the man is laying on the ground and this suit is sitting on top of him, the car squishes him
like shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, like not straight on his chest.
No, like accordion style.
Yeah, and I just thought it was so funny.
He like mushes.
It makes sense once you realize that they're not quite human.
Yes.
But at the time you're like, what? Because yeah, it squishes him width-wise. I don't even know what to call that.
Like an accordion.
Yeah.
Smoosh.
And then he just goes, huh, and like passes out. But I guess what else are you gonna do? You're getting squished.
It's a cool effect. It looks gnarly.
Yeah.
When he gets smooshed.
So the man escapes because someone got smooshed, as you just said. And so he gets to a gas station.
Yes.
And he meets Hector.
And Hector is watching a documentary on Stonehenge.
Yes.
We love Hector.
We love Hector.
Hector's great.
And the next is a commercial. So he's watching this documentary and then he sees the Silver Shamrock commercial. We are first introduced to the song.
Yes.
First of many times in this movie.
14 times to be exact.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't
14
even count.
times.
Okay, so it is. I was like, I don't know, maybe a few times. 14.
14, baby.
No wonder I wrote down this song is truly annoying.
Right? It's so catchy.
It is catchy though, yeah. I understand why the kids were hypnotized, honestly.
Yeah.
So the man escapes. The man who escaped is now telling Hector they're coming. He's not giving him much information or much context, but he says they're coming. I wrote down the guys in the suits are giving me They Live vibes.
We actually at the same time we looked at each other and we're like, they live?
They live? Yeah, they live. Okay.
They live? Yeah.
So it is funny when you find out, it's still, even when you find out what they are, it seems like, it still feels like They Live vibes.
They Live and Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Right? Like similar kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he doesn't give Hector much context, but he's not doing well. Mm-hmm. My man's is ill, okay? So Hector ends up taking him to the hospital. And this is where we're introduced to Tom Atkins' character.
I love Tom Atkins.
We stan Tom Atkins in this household.
The sweetest man. And he is smooth as in this movie.
We are going to see he is very, very smooth. Not just in his actions, but also with the ladies.
Oh, he surely is. He's a doctor. Dr. Daniel Chellis.
Yes, Dr. Daniel. Damn, Daniel.
Would he be considered a zaddy in this? Or is he too young to be a zaddy in this?
You know, it's hard to tell in the 80s.
Right. I would say he's a zaddy.
Like 80s 30 is so different than 2024's 30.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
So it's really hard to tell.
Well, in any event,
either way,
he's got it going on.
He does, with his little mustache.
Do you know I have a t-shirt with him on it?
Oh, do you?
And it says Thrill Me from Night of the Creeps.
Why did you not get me that one to wear?
Oh, I should have.
This is also Laura's sweater that I'm wearing, just like in previous episodes. I think the last one, actually. Look, I ran out of the shirts to wear, okay? I don't have many horror t-shirts yet, but...
Sharing is caring, friend. No worries.
It is. I didn't end up writing this character's name down, the man who, from the beginning of the movie, but he's in the hospital.
Oh, his name, he's the father, Harry Grimbridge. Nope, I'm sorry. Yep, that's his name. I was about to say his shoot name is Al Berry.
Oh, okay.
But in the movie, his name is Harry. Poor
Harry's
Harry.
not doing well.
Harry's had a rough night.
He has had a really rough night. And we see... should I call him Dr. Chalice or should I call him Daniel?
Let's call him Dan.
Call him Dan the Man?
Dan the Man.
He really is Dan the Man.
He is.
Dan the Man with his sweet stash.
He's worthy of the man.
Yeah, he is.
Dan the Man, he's our doctor. He's there to take care of Harry, right? He's the emergency room doctor, I suppose. And Harry starts telling him that they're all going to kill us. They're coming. They're all going to kill us.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously Harry knows something that we don't know, and that Dan the Man doesn't know. So they get him covered. You know, he's good. He's in the hospital bed. He's chilling. Dan the Man takes a nap. Okay. The suit is now in the hospital. One of the suits has found Harry, and he's sneaking around, gets into his room. This scene was so gross.
It really was.
I didn't know how to describe what happens to him.
Same. My notes were all over the place until we kind of get confirmation in a later scene on what happened.
Yeah, like I think in my notes I wrote smothers him and then literally breaks his face and almost rips it off.
I wrote finds junkyard man and gouges his eyes out, but in a crazy way. Like almost rips his face off. That's what I wrote.
Just getting all the bases covered.
Yeah, because I didn't know how to describe it. I'm like, oh, he's gouging his eyes out.
I love that he's junkyard man.
Junkyard man.
Poor guy. It's also worth mentioning he's been holding on to a silver shamrock mask the entire time. So even when we first see him and he's running from the suits, he's holding the mask.
Yeah.
And so he's holding this mask when he's saying they're coming, they're going to come kill us.
Yeah.
So already, like, Dan is kind of, he's not sure what is going on. But anyways, he's having a nap. The suit comes. He kills this dude. So the nurse comes in, and I believe she sees the man leaving or something like that. So she goes in to check on Harry, discovers that Harry's face is still there, but it's not well. And Dan comes running in from a nap, and they run outside because the suit is like getting away.
Yeah.
And the suit runs into a car.
This might be my favorite scene in the movie.
I think it's up there. He just starts dousing himself in gasoline.
Sitting in the car,
lights a match, and he goes up in flames.
just sets himself on fire casually, by the way.
Oh, so casual. Just like, boop, fire, the entire car explodes.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought Dan's response to this whole situation was so like accurate and true to life. Like he's looking at things like, what am I witnessing?
Because I imagine you would be in so much shock at that point. Like, what am I even looking at?
Could you imagine seeing somebody do that?
Sure can't.
No way.
No.
You pointed out the dummy.
I was gonna say, for a split second, like a second too long, you can see the dummy in the car, and it's so funny to me.
That's great. I love that.
It reminds me of, I know you didn't have all that in Canada, right? The show.
I don't think so.
If you are a fan of like 90s Nickelodeon and you've seen all that, they use dummies like that where it was very obvious it was a dummy. So that's what it reminded me of, even though this wasn't supposed to be comical.
Right. I get you. I think it's so funny, and it's why I love 80s horror so much. It's so charming.
Yeah. Also, we do end up finding out the coroner says that this suit pulled the man's face apart. Pulled his skull apart is how she described it. That's when I went back in my notes and I'm like, oh, he didn't just gouge his eyes out. He did do something extra that we were seeing.
Right, exactly. So at this point, Dan calls home, and actually forgot to mention, Dan and his wife are no longer together.
It seems that way, yeah.
It seems that way. I think the kids live with the wife, and earlier in the movie, he had gone home and brought them like the like plastic masks, and they were like, no, we want silver shamrock masks.
Yeah.
So I guess that's important to note.
Yeah, silver shamrock is really over.
Yeah, it is. It's really over with the kids.
Yeah.
And Dan is clearly, I don't want to say he's an absent father. I don't think he is. I just think that well, maybe he is. I don't know.
Well, we don't know, but he is a doctor, so I imagine he's very busy.
Agreed. I think so too. And it seems like he's working in the emergency room, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. He also is a really great detective. I think he should have gone into that line of work. Anyways, he's telling his wife he's not going to make it, and she is pissed. And he's like, don't worry, I'll be there to take them trick-or-treating, I think he tells her. Or I'll be there on Saturday or something.
Yeah.
Now we're introduced to Ellie. Ellie is there to identify Harry, who is her father.
Yeah.
It's a very sad scene. I really felt for Ellie here.
Yeah.
And Dan's explaining to her how weird the situation is.
Yeah.
And I really like Ellie because Ellie wants to know what happened.
Yeah.
Ellie wants to know who killed her dad, how he died, and she's going to find out.
Yeah.
I thought she was a great character.
I liked her.
Yeah, I think she's great. All right, moving along. In my notes, I wrote the dummy, and I put a bunch of laughing emojis. No one can see it, but I think it's funny. Okay, so now it's Wednesday, October 27th, and Dan is going to try to get some info out of the coroner.
Yes.
And he's very smooth with her.
Here we really start to see how smooth he is.
He's a bit of a ladies' man, I think.
He's very much a ladies' man. We will come to find out, and we're seeing it right here.
And I mean, it's Tom Atkins. I can't blame her.
I think this was a scene where I'm like, I really hope that's his ex-wife.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Based on other things that happen in the movie, I'm like, okay, yeah, they were divorced. I hope.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But our coroner, I did not write her name down. Apologies. She is very hesitant to give him any information, but he is so smooth that she kind of is like, well, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
She does want to help him out. Okay. I wrote, Dan is smooth. Moving along to October 29th. Dan is at the bar.
Yes.
And a silver shamrock commercial comes on. Cannot escape it. It is everywhere. And Dan is over it.
Yeah.
He's over it. He's joined by Ellie. She comes in and they start talking about the situation with her dad.
Yes. I love that. She wants to know if maybe her dad said anything. Did he say anything before he died? And Dan lies and says, yeah, he said, tell Ellie I love her. And she knows right away. She goes, you're lying. Thanks anyway. Side note, they also do, this is where they turn on Halloween for a second on the TV for the first time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, so cool, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm like, nice little nod.
We love a nod. And so Ellie tells Dan that her dad owns a shop and was selling the shamrock masks.
Right.
So there's a direct tie-in.
Yes.
Which might explain why he was holding the mask
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Yeah. And possibly has something to do with why they were following him.
Right, exactly. And I guess he was also scheduled to go pick up more masks on October 20th. And then on October 21st, he was supposed to have a dinner with someone named Minnie, and he never showed up. So she believes that something happened to her dad between the time that he went to look into why he was not getting any more masks.
Yes.
And this appointment or date he has with Minnie. And the mask factory is in Santa
Mira.
Mm-hmm. So she wants to know what happens. And they decide they're going to go. And Dan is again trying to explain to his ex-wife on the phone why he can't be there to see the kids.
Why he can't pick up the kids again, which I kind of feel bad. I feel a little bit of sympathy for the ex-wife just because I feel like they kind of make her seem like she's just like old and bitter and mad. But like, imagine your ex-husband's supposed to come pick up these kids and he keeps making excuses.
For sure. Absolutely. And I feel bad for the kids too.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't worry, I'm going to take them trick-or-treating. Don't worry, I promise.
Yeah.
How many broken promises, Dan?
Right. I mean, granted, we know that it's for a bigger purpose. It's for a bigger cause, and it's for something that could potentially save their lives. But they don't know that.
No,
so they're
exactly.
just like, Dad doesn't give a shit about us.
Yeah. No, I know. They don't know. They are really cute kids. They really want those shamrock masks.
They really want them.
So they're driving to the mask factory, and Ellie is wondering, like, why would you build a mask factory so far out of town?
Yeah.
It's really out. I mean, it's in Northern California, but it's like really far out. It's like he says, I believe it's Dan that says it's like an Irish town.
Yeah, they start giving the background of the town.
Right. And when they pull in, like, everyone is staring at them. And what I thought was really funny is, while I was doing a little bit of research, I guess the town that they shot this in was kind of weird. And everyone was staring at them all the time. That's what some of the cast said.
So were they actually in the middle of nowhere?
Kind of. It's like it's a small town.
I imagine. And it was the 80s?
I could be wrong, but I think it's either the setting of Invasion of the Body Snatchers or it's where they filmed Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Okay.
So, little tidbit. But yeah, I guess it was a strange little town.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were just curious that there's a film crew there. I don't know.
So they are trying to rent a motel.
Oh, and there's surveillance cameras.
Oh, yeah.
All
everywhere.
Over the place.
Yes.
This town is like Big Brother is watching.
Yes, very true. So Dan is like, oh, we better rent a motel so we can go over the details without all the town watching us. And I wrote in my notes, real slick there, Dan.
Oh, we got to get a motel, do we, Dan?
Not only do they need to rent this motel, but they need to pose as husband and wife.
Obviously.
You know, they don't want to, I don't even know if he said that, but it's definitely implied. Because
they I think they do say that.
He does say that?
I believe so, yeah.
Because I know they end up talking to someone from the town and he puts his arm around her like, hey. And I'm like, oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
like just adding into detail that's probably not necessary. Though I would also say, in the 80s, maybe that was more necessary.
I think so, because then it makes them seem less weird as to why they're there.
And I feel like a man and woman traveling together in the 80s might not have been as accepted if they weren't husband and wife.
Oh, maybe.
And especially in a small town.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. More questions. Why want more questions? That was the weirdest sentence. Don't cut it. Leave it.
Leave it. I was going to say, leave it.
Why want more questions?
Why want more questions?
Oh, gosh. Sorry, guys. Woo.
And then this is my favorite because legit, as a woman, I think we've both been here before, similar situations in our lifetime so they're in the motel room and then Dan starts pulling I could sleep in the car if you want.
He does. He says they were discussing more sleeping arrangements.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I can sleep in the car.
Like, Dan, I appreciate that you're pretending.
He goes, well, it would probably be a lot more comfortable than the floor.
Oh, and here is where I was like, ooh, Dan, Dan the man. She goes, where do you want to sleep, Dr. Chalice? And Dan says, that's a dumb question. And then they start making out.
Oh, making out hardcore.
Because he got that Riz.
He does, man. He really is so smooth. And also, before they get settled in their hotel room and they get freaky, Dan, this is why I think Dan should have been a detective or a PI or something. He goes to the motel lobby, and while Ellie's distracting the owner of the motel, he looks to see who has checked in, and he does see her father's name on the list. And then I guess a little tidbit to share, the rest of the names on that list were members of the crew on the movie.
Oh, cool.
Kind of cute. Anyways,
I like that.
Continue.
So here we also see that in addition to Santa Mira being under surveillance, like Big Brother style, they also have a 6 p.m. curfew.
Wild.
Like the sun hasn't even begun to set yet.
It's crazy.
That's wild.
No, it's so crazy. And apparently that's Jamie Lee Curtis's voice over the speaker.
Oh, yeah. I read that in your little tidbits. And the operator, too, right?
Yeah.
It's her voice. That's
kind of
so cool.
neat, right?
I do like that.
There's also a family that pulls up in an RV. We're getting to see some of the random players in the movie here that are staying at the motel. A lot of people that stay at this motel are people that place orders for their stores and stuff from Silver Shamrock.
Yeah.
So we've got Marge is somebody staying at the motel. She is picking up an order, or she's looking to place an order. Then we have an RV pull up, and it's got Buddy, his wife Betty, and Little Buddy.
Little Buddy.
I don't know if his name was Little Buddy or Buddy Jr. I can't remember what he says. But
I want to go with Little Buddy, even if that wasn't it.
let's go with Little Buddy. And first of all, like, they're dressed, like the clothes they're wearing, like, it's so, I was gonna say ugly, but that's so mean. But it's just, I don't know, how would you describe
They're
it?
a little eccentric.
Yeah, but also uptight.
Okay.
Like, they look like Leave It to Beaver is what it reminded me of.
Okay.
I don't know. Is that a weird thing to say?
Hoity-toity?
Kinda.
I just don't know the word to use, but I know what you're trying to say.
Okay, if this sounds stupid, guys, I'm sorry. I don't know how else to describe them, but they're an interesting group.
Yeah.
And they're very chatty. They're very talkative. And they got a big old RV.
Yeah.
And we do find out that they also own a store. And they also are there to, like, pick up an order or place an order or something to that effect.
And I'm like, damn, Silver Shamrock doesn't ship?
No, apparently not.
Everyone has to go pick up their orders?
I think it's like, it's some weird deal where, like, they also want to place orders for next year and they're not able to do that and they want to figure out why. Because I remember Marge does say that. She says something like, I don't know, they won't let me order for next year and I just want to get ahead of it or something like that.
Oh, yeah. She's very annoyed. And,
Yeah.
And wow, I didn't catch that at the time, but now knowing, I'm like, oh, I know why they didn't let you place an order for next year.
Yeah, exactly. And I could be wrong, but I think she was married to Tom Atkins at the time, the actress that plays Marge.
Oh.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere.
Which now I'm also like, oh. Well, we're going to get there in a minute, but I'm just thinking about what happens in the movie, and I'm like, that would be interesting to have your wife on set for certain scenes. But, you know, professional actors and such.
We're actors, man. It's fine.
So Dan runs into a local, and the local is telling him, he kind of appears to be homeless.
He
right?
does, and Dan has gone out to buy some booze, and he gets information out of this guy by giving him some booze. The guy says, I don't have any diseases. And Dan's like, all right. He hands him his bottle of booze.
But he tells Dan that the company won't hire anyone local. They will only hire people from out of town. So that's weird.
Yeah.
The local's kind of going off about the company. He yells, Cochran! And he says he wants to burn the whole thing down.
Yeah.
He said he wants to get like a pack of Molotov cocktails or something. But I mean, it is a big company, so he's going to need a lot if he wants to burn the whole thing down.
Yeah.
And as he leaves, two men in suits catch up with him. And this scene is wild.
It is.
I think this is the craziest kill possibly in the movie, in my opinion. I'm trying to remember. Did they just show the silhouette of this kind of?
I think they showed him getting his head ripped off.
Yes. Two men approach him, kind of push him down onto his knees. And then it's like partially in the shadow, but you basically see them twist his head and pull it clean out.
It's
like
so cool.
Spine attached.
I know, it's wild.
It's gross.
It's a wicked kill.
Yeah.
Also, there are no updates on the body. Dan has checked in with the coroner. No updates. However, I do believe it's this scene where she says something about the ashes that she's like sifting through. She can only find ashes from the vehicle. She's not finding any human remains.
The coroner?
The coroner. I think she talks about it here.
Okay.
Which is interesting because basically she's sifting through all these ashes to try to find the body. she's not having any luck with that. So that's a little bit sus. It's a little weird.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
You should be able to find something from a body.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
I wrote Dan and Ellie are about to get it on.
Okay, my next note was Ellie and Dan are comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And also, you're telling me Ellie packed this little negligee for a platonic road trip? She's in like a silk little lingerie set. I'm like, you don't sleep in that normally.
I also don't think she like found it in town.
No, you did not just like go to a Walmart real quick and pick something up.
No way. And no, like, I don't know anyone that wears that sort of like lingerie to bed.
Like a little silk nightie.
I straight up look like Adam Sandler when I'm going to sleep.
I look like Adam Sandler on a daily basis.
No, seriously, when I come home, immediately I'm in like the largest like t-shirt that's probably 12 years old.
Sweatpants.
The biggest sweatpants.
Hair up on my head like this. I mean, similar to how it is now actually, but in a bun.
Yeah.
No makeup.
Just Adam Sandlering it up.
Yes.
Never in a little...
No, and when I think of those little like satin silk whatever negligees, I always think of movies, but just never real life.
No, unless it's like, you know, you're like, you know, gonna have a nice night.
If you're trying to seduce someone.
Yeah, right.
Sure. But
like,
even then, you're not sleeping in it.
Even, you know what's funny? I really don't have a lot of matching pajamas either. Like pajama sets?
No, I don't either.
I wish I did. I wish I was the type of person that had like nice PJ sets.
Little cute. No, I have pajama pants, and then I have probably a million wrestling t-shirts.
I have like a million horror t-shirts.
Yeah.
Like just, that's all I sleep in.
So either way, I think Ellie had it out for Dan this whole time anyway.
She came prepared.
In the back of her mind, she's like, just in case.
Just in cases, we're going to put this in here. We're not looking like Adam Sandler tonight, Dan.
I'm going to pack my razor just in case.
So, Marge, who we were introduced to earlier, runs into Ellie outside and she says something to the effect of like, you know, these masks are so cheap. Like, look at the tag came off of it. And she kind of shows her. It's like, it almost looks like a toonie. It's like a little silver shamrock.
A toonie. I haven't heard that word in so long. If you don't know, a toonie... A loonie and a toonie.
A loonie and a toonie.
Is a $1 coin and a $2 coin in Canada.
Yes, and when toonies first came out, you could pop the middle of them out. Because it's like 2 coins in one. If you put them in the freezer, you could pop the middles out. I don't know, they fixed it. You can't do that anymore, I don't think.
And did that void the coin, I would imagine?
I mean, I think it caused some problems.
Okay.
I don't know. I was really young at the time, but I just remember, maybe that was an urban legend. I don't know, but I do recall that was an issue.
Fellow Canadians, could you pop the middle out of a toonie? I have no idea because I'm not. I said fellow Canadians, but I'm not Canadian.
You're an honorary Canadian.
Thank you.
I love it.
Okay.
So Marge, yeah, she's kind of being like, these masks, they're pretty cheap. Like, look at this. So she sits in bed. Actually, I think you might have been half asleep because I was definitely talking to you at this point. And
we tried to rewatch this and I fell asleep with my phone in my hand. Like she thought I was still awake.
I did. And I kept saying things to her and she wasn't answering me. And I was like, oh, she must be really like in the zone.
I love that you thought I just wasn't answering you. Like, nope, I'm writing my notes.
We're both like note taking.
Yeah.
And I mean, something you guys should know. We obviously know these movies, we watch these movies, but we actually, before recording, we watch them 2 or 3 times over.
We try to
because there's a difference between watching a movie to just enjoy it and then watching it and really taking notice of like every single thing in it.
Yes.
If that makes sense. So anyways, we were watching it last night and I turned after a while when she wasn't answering me and I looked and she was holding her phone up. Like, I don't know how she was asleep.
I must have had the blanket in a way that was just propping my arm up because it wasn't like up above my head like this. No. It was probably more like this.
Yeah. You and Toby, man, you crashed.
Oh, yeah. Toby was cuddling with me. I fell asleep. Anyway.
Okay, so I digress, as I do. The little tag, the little silver shamrock coin looking thing, on the back of it is a chip. And from far away, I think I said to you, it looks like a QR code. And then you never said anything. And I was like, oh, maybe that was stupid.
Oh my gosh. You're like, I'm so stupid.
Like, you're so dumb.
Oh my God. I'm sorry I made you feel that way by falling asleep. Okay. But Marge sees this. She's mad. It's cheap, whatever. And she starts messing with it.
Yeah, because wouldn't you? Like, if a little coin fell off a mask, wouldn't you be like, whoa, why is there a chip in this? Especially in the 80s?
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
So she's kind of poking at it, prodding at it, trying to figure out what it is.
Bad idea, Marge.
It was a really bad idea. Because a blue beam shoots out into her face and completely warps it. Actually, I don't know. I don't know between this and the guy getting his head ripped off with the spine attached. I don't know which one was crazier because this was a really crazy practical effect.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Her face looks like it just kind of imploded. Not imploded. I guess it was outward. So more like exploded.
Yeah.
And then a random bug crawls out of her mouth.
The bug like really gave me the heebie-jeebs.
And I'm like, what is this bug?
Yeah,
it looked like a real bug.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was a real bug. They did use real crickets as well.
Yeah, we see crickets later, but this, I don't know what this was.
And there's real snakes and stuff. Dude,
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be out of that room so fast.
Yeah, the effect looked gross. I don't know. Her face just looked like a hot dog if you put it in the microwave too long.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Good old hot dog face.
Oh. Marge, rest in peace, girl.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Marge.
So I think the next scene is where we see a bunch of guys in white lab coats now coming to haul her away.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they Ellie and Dan come out of the motel. It ain't a hotel.
Definitely a motel.
It's the Brandon Motor Large. Large. It's the Brandon Motor. Okay, I'm not even.
It's because you wanted to say large Marge, isn't it?
No, I would never. Okay, so Dan and Ellie come out of their motel room and they see that they're wheeling out Marge's body, and it's a whole bunch of like suits, right? And I don't know at this point if they know that Marge is dead.
They don't, because Cochran is there and he tells them.
Cochran like rolls up, doesn't he?
Yep. He comes up separately, of course. And he tells them, oh, she's just going to rest a little bit. Like we're taking her to
the factory.
Not even to a hospital.
No,
Why wouldn't you just, Why wouldn't you just say we're taking her to the hospital? They're like, no, we're going to take her to the factory. There's better treatment there or whatever.
Yeah.
Because Dan, being a doctor, is
Dan goes, I'm a doctor. Yeah. He just keeps telling everybody.
So he's like, where are you taking her? Like, what are you going to do? They're like, oh, don't worry. We have like top-notch facility.
Ooh, that is so sus. That's so questionable.
Yeah, a little concerning.
A little bit weird. Yeah.
I know Dan talks to the coroner at some point, so he must have went and found a phone and talks to her again.
He does, but before we jump into that, it is now Saturday, October 30th. Okay. The only reason I keep mentioning the days is because they do appear on the screen.
It's important because we're getting closer and closer to Halloween. The Silver Shamrock song keeps counting down. 3 more days, 2 more days. Okay, here we go. So my next note was about the coroner because I wrote, coroner says Dan owes her a dinner. He a playboy. Because here at this point, we've established that Dan and Ellie are now like, hooking up.
They're hanging.
We don't know if they probably didn't define it. Dan is a divorcee. We don't know Ellie's situation.
Ellie wants a good time,
That's very true, possibly.
Who knows?
But, they definitely are more than friends at this point. And Dan is getting information from the coroner over the phone, and the coroner's flirting with him, says he owes her dinner, and he's like, oh, I'd love to take you to dinner. I nothing I'd rather do, or whatever it was.
He's charming, though, man.
He is very charming, but a part of me was like, Dan, what about Ellie? But I'm like, I don't know what they're doing. They probably don't even know what they're doing.
No, right. And I love it. And also, let's not forget, the coroner knows that he's like,
that's true.
She's kind of like, no, you won't. But all right, whatever.
That's very true. When he says that, like, oh, there's no one I'd rather go to dinner with or whatever. She's like, okay.
Yeah, I like that. I like that she's not just like, oh, Dan. Like, she's just like, sure. Yeah. But she does tell him a couple things that are important. She says something about, this is the part where she talks about the body and the ashes and the car. This is where she's starting to feel like things are a little bit off. And the most important part of the scene, though, is that when Dan hangs up the phone, we see that there's a wiretap attached to the desk where the phone is that he's using. So people are listening to him.
Yes.
That's important, which means that they know that he's talking to the coroner.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And they know that she knows that something ain't right.
Something is not right. Yes, exactly. So Ellie and Dan head to the factory and they want to find out about basically the day that her father went to pick up the order. So they're kind of like questioning, trying to figure out what's going on here. And as this is all happening, our friends from the RV are also there. And Buddy is receiving some type of outstanding achievement award for selling the most masks.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's their top seller.
Yes. And Mr. Cochran's there to congratulate him. And basically, they're going to go on a tour of the facility.
Yeah.
Buddy is asking about the final processing. And Mr. Cochran is not, he's basically trying to talk around it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want them to know what the final processing is. What is so funny about it too is while they're walking around the factory, where it says like where the final processing is, there's just a giant sign over top of it that says final processing.
Yeah. We don't want you to know anything about it, but let me tell you exactly where it is.
And Buddy's also telling Dan all about Mr. Cochran's like inventions. He's a jokester, and he's just like a brilliant man, and he's really funny.
Yeah.
And I don't know, he's just drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
He's a kiss ass for sure.
Oh my gosh.
And Mr. Cochran is like to Dan and Ellie, like, oh, you can join us. Why not? I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, he's very like kayfabe about the whole thing, but is also like going along with it.
Yeah.
So they do this tour, and once they get outside, they notice that there are like suits everywhere.
Yeah. Watching them.
Watching. And they're just awkward. I don't know how else to describe the suits except that they're awkward.
They're completely stone-faced. They look like robots. I can tell you that much. I think that's why I kept writing robot men throughout the movie.
No, robot men.
Before even getting any confirmation, they're just staring at them. I can't not think of they live every time I see them.
Yeah, it's very like, they're like very robotic and stone-faced. I guess kind of like the Matrix.
Sure.
The suits in the Matrix, kind of. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm calling them suits. But they notice that everybody's staring, and then Ellie notices her father's car in one of the in a garage that's open with like a blanket or I was gonna say a sheet. You know how I love talking about sheets. Something's covering.
It's funny because here I think sheet is probably more accurate than blanket over a car.
Okay,
but
so
yes, partially covered.
A partially covered vehicle that belongs to her father, and she's freaking out about it. And the suit's like blocked, so she can't get up to the car. She can't take a look at it. The suits won't let her.
Yeah.
And then her and Dan, she runs into Dan's arms, and they're just whatever. So that's kind of an important thing because obviously now we know for sure her dad was at the factory.
Yeah.
Okay. So now they go back to the motel, and Ellie is straight up scared.
Yeah.
She tells Dan, she's like, I think we need to get out of here. Like, I don't feel safe. I'm with Ellie.
Yeah. And they're like, we gotta get out of here, right?
Yes, we gotta go. And so he tells Ellie to pack. He goes, just pack and we'll go. She has the smallest purse.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call that a suitcase.
I was going to say it's supposed to be a suitcase, I think, but it's the tiniest suitcase you've ever seen.
It's literally the size of my makeup case.
Can you imagine back in the day, like when they had suitcases like that all the time that did not have wheels?
The ones that just like close like a book?
The trunks? Can you imagine?
We would have like 12, we'd have to bring 12 trunks with us. Imagine being on the road with that much luggage.
Imagine going through the airport carrying like 2 of those.
No, I would abandon everything.
No.
I honestly,
we're just like, no.
Like, no, it wouldn't happen. So while Ellie's packing, Dan's like, I'm going to go call the police.
Yeah.
So he does. At least he tries. Operator. Because I guess at this point, is there no 911 yet?
I don't know. That's a good question. Or if it's just because it's a small town. But I know I wrote down the phone wasn't working, but it is technically working. But yeah, he keeps getting the operator who's telling him like your call cannot be completed. Your call cannot be completed.
Yeah. And also we said Jamie Lee Curtis's voice.
Yeah.
Very neat.
Very cool.
I hope we're right about that. Yeah, so he can't get through to anyone is the point, right? He can't get a hold of the police. But he doesn't like he seems worried, but he doesn't seem overly concerned about that. He's kind of just like, okay, it's time to go.
Yeah.
We got to go.
So when he goes back to the motel room after trying to call the police, the place looks ransacked. And he can't find Ellie.
Ellie's gone, yeah.
Ellie is gone.
And as Dan is like kind of running around the hotel room, not running around, but he's like kind of like, what is happening here? The suits all show up.
Yes.
They come in, they're coming to get him. Dan is like a cat. He busts open that, window door and he hops right out. The suits, they're on him.
They're on him. The way you just did that, they're on him.
But Dan follows them. Once he evades them, he does follow them and he does see them with Ellie.
Yeah, so we know that the robot men, people, whatever, have taken Ellie.
Yeah.
The suits. I guess
suits.
It's way easier to call them the suits.
Let's call them the suits, yeah.
The suits have taken Ellie. Dan is now outside the factory.
Yeah.
He's outside Silver Shamrock Factory and he's trying to break in.
And the sound effects are so cool. Yeah. I love the entire score of this movie. It's great. So great.
So he finally gets in.
He does, but doesn't he try another payphone? He does.
He does.
He tries another, because the phone in the motel wasn't working, so he's like, okay, well, I'll just call the police from this payphone. And the payphone also isn't working.
And it's doing the same thing with the operator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this whole town, you just can't call anyone.
You can't call anyone, yeah.
So he does eventually get into the factory, and he goes into a room where he sees an old lady knitting.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He gets closer and closer to her. He goes to touch her shoulder.
Oh, and he's going like, where's the girl?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me where the girl is.
Which, I don't know why he just presumed she knew.
Yeah, I mean, she looked so creepy too.
She looked very, very creepy.
I would not approach that lady.
I wouldn't assume she knows anything going on around her.
Agreed, yeah. Yeah.
But he goes up to her, goes to touch her shoulder or whatever, and there's a jump scare here. Her head just falls clean off. Mm-hmm. And it's also shown here. We get confirmation for the first time. Some of these people or whatever are robots.
Yes.
We see mechanical devices inside her body.
Or at least there is some mechanical people in this facility.
Yes,
right?
Because there's some type of machine inside her body.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
So then more, presumably, robot people show up and a fight ensues.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because Dan actually punches the suit and the suit just like eats it and just like comes right back.
Just completely no-sells it.
Like,
so that's where I'm like, okay, he must be a robot too.
Yeah, Dan like punches right through the suit. I don't know if it's his chest. I can't remember, but he punches through him and then like yellow goo is like all over his hands. You know what it reminded me of?
What?
It reminded me of Ash from Alien. Like, you know how the droids, how like weird white milky blood comes out of them?
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of, like the yellow goop.
And fun fact, that yellow goo was orange juice concentrate.
No, really?
Did you ever have that as a kid?
Is that when it comes in like a can?
Like the tube of biscuits?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we always had stuff like that.
Yeah.
The no name, it was like no name orange.
Yeah, and you just like dump it.
No
like,
name fruit punch.
You dump a log of orange concentrate into a pitcher, and I think you just added water.
You add water.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like bringing back like memories, man.
Which is also interesting because I would never have thought that's what it was by looking at it. It looked much more gooey.
It looked really gooey.
I imagine they added something else to it.
Sure, yeah. It was gross looking for sure.
Yeah. But Dan here gets caught by more robot people.
Yes, and Mr. Cochran shows up.
Yes.
And he is real pissed about his old lady's missing a head.
Yeah, he's real pissed. He said that she was an antique.
Yeah, that it took like years and years to like build her, finish her, get the parts for her.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
And he's also very, I don't even know how to describe it. I want to say sarcastic, just kind of rude about Ellie. He's like, oh, Ellie's resting.
Yeah.
Very devious.
Very devious. And like, I mean, this actor, he has so much presence.
Yeah.
Like, he really does come across like sinister.
He's a great evil old boss.
Oh, he's so fantastic. You can just feel the shift in energy in the room when he walks in.
Yeah.
He's great.
I agree. Mm-hmm. So now Cochran also tells him it's almost Halloween morning. It will be a very busy day for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you're like, why? Side note, I also wrote down there was a man in the scene, I think one of the robot men, quote unquote, that had the worst fake sneeze I've ever heard in my life.
Oh my God.
He went, Hachu.
And then Dr. Cochran, Mr. Cochran goes, they're very lifelike.
Yeah.
And Dan's just, I mean,
I guess it does make sense why his sneeze wouldn't be completely accurate.
Yeah, because he's a robot.
Yeah.
Because he's a droid. But what's so funny is he does it and he's like, they're very lifelike.
Yeah.
That was really funny. And it has turned into it is October 31st, correct? We're going into Halloween day.
We're going into Halloween morning.
Halloween morning. Okay.
Slowly but surely, as Cochran is taking Dan through the lab, we're seeing now this is a whole lab. He's kind of, as villains do, telling him the plot behind it and things like that.
Yes. Oh, this is a big reveal.
Yeah.
Also, can I tell you when he's like taking him through this like old computer 80s lab?
Yeah.
Like this is what I thought the world was going to look like when like technology advanced. I imagined like computers with like lots of buttons and lights and stuff. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what is in this room. Yeah. It's like there's like a circle of TVs and like big computer things, lots of lights, lots of buttons, and you're pressing and
dozens of people in lab coats.
Yes, the lab coats
on monitors.
Yes, and then in the middle of this hidden, I called it a science room in my note.
You know what it is though? That is correct.
It's a big science lab testing spot.
Sure.
Is Stonehenge.
Yes. One of the stones. We just see a giant stone at first, but then Cochran does confirm that he's like, oh, it took a lot to get it here. So they just like stole one of the stones from Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Which like, how did you get that here? You don't even ship your masks to stores and you're telling me you found something to ship that thing?
I mean, but we do find out Mr. Cochran is quite the guy.
That is true. He did mention he had ancient technology and Stonehenge is pretty ancient.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know much about it, to be honest, except that it's like, do we know how it got there? That's like a big mystery, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. Anyway.
So there are a lot of theories around it, I'm sure. I'm not super well versed in all of the lore behind Stonehenge, but they're using it to take pieces off, like chip pieces away basically, and then put them in those tags that they're putting on the masks. So it's implied that there's some type of, I guess, supernatural power.
Yeah,
right?
they hold some sort of energy.
Yeah.
I think he refers to it as an ancient sacrificial circle.
Probably.
At some point, that's how he describes Stonehenge.
Yeah, because they're definitely going to do sacrifice.
And they're using like particles from the rock, like you said, and putting it inside that chip, that tag, which is why a big blast of energy beamed out and hit poor Marge in the face.
Right. So
Gotta put a warning label on that. Come on, Silver Shamrock.
I think there's a reason they didn't.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And we're about to see it because now we see the family from the RV. They're getting put into what looks like a living room. And I love how the wife here, she kind of goes and looks out the window, but there is no window. It's walled off. And she doesn't really seem too concerned. Yeah, she just like opens the curtain and then is like,
Yeah, it's like a testing room.
Yeah, it actually says test room A on the door, which they don't seem to notice.
They don't, because I think they're like riding high on the fact that they're like the top sellers, and I think they feel like they're in a waiting room to like win. They're like going to get a prize or something.
Yeah, definitely. So the dad mentions here to his wife that it's weird they won't take his order for next year.
Yeah.
So similar to what Marge was saying. And they turn on the commercial. The lab turns on the commercial, the Silver Shamrock commercial that instructs the children to put on their masks. So what did you call him? Little Buddy?
Little Buddy, yeah.
Little Buddy, because the whole family is in this room, goes and grabs his mask.
Yes.
He has the pumpkin.
He does, yeah.
So he goes and puts on the pumpkin mask, sits really close to the TV.
And doesn't the mom say, don't sit too close to the TV, it'll ruin your eyesight or something?
Yeah, something like that.
It's a lot worse than that, my friend. A lot worse than that.
In a way, she wasn't wrong, but maybe not for the reasons that she thought. So the song is playing. The tag is, doing whatever its magical powers are. And we see the mask is starting to disintegrate. The kid's grabbing his head now. I got the impression his head was hurting. I didn't know if he's trying to rip off the mask or what, but grabs his head. The mask is disintegrating.
It's like melting into him almost.
Yes.
It's weird.
He collapses on the floor. And you can partially see his face through, but the mask is still there. And we see that crickets start to come out of the mask.
Oh, it's so gross.
I'm assuming his body. Ugh. And the parents are starting to notice, like, what the hell's going on? Every time it goes back to the kid, there are more insects, more creatures coming out of his face. Then there are snakes of various sizes.
Yes.
It's really gross.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's really gross. It's really cool, both, honestly.
Yeah.
And the wife here seems to pass out. That's what I think happened.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it looks like she passes out. It's not really clear on whether or not she dies. And I was unclear here on what happened to the husband. Did he pass out or did he get bit?
No, so a rattlesnake comes out of the mask, out of the head face mask, and slithers on over to the dad and bites him several times.
Okay, I think I was looking down writing as that was happening. I'm like, what happened? Did he pass out too?
Yeah, no,
So,
he's dead, for sure.
He definitely seems like he's dead.
Yes, and Dan is witnessing this whole thing. They're forcing him to watch this.
Yeah.
They also showed him that Ellie is strapped down in another testing room.
Yeah.
On like, I was going to call it a gurney. Is that what it's called?
I think this is just a
table.
Bed. Yeah, a table.
A table. Yeah, she's strapped onto a table, and he's now forced. So now he knows Ellie's strapped to a table.
Yeah.
He just got forced to watch what's going to happen to all of the kids that put masks on, because now it's Halloween.
Yeah.
It's Halloween day. I'm assuming Mr. Cochran wanted to make sure that his plan was going to happen and was going to work.
One more last test run.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm like, you're waiting for the day of to test this?
Like, come on.
I assume
Cochran.
they tested it before too.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what his deal was.
No. And at first, I wondered, why would you do that to your top distributor? And then I was like, oh, wait, they're only going to do this once.
Yeah, right.
They don't need him next year.
No, exactly. And Mr. Cochran will get into that later about the timing and stuff. But yeah, I remember we were both like, oh.
It also makes sense why they're not letting people place orders for the next year. They don't need to.
Exactly.
Because they're planning on them not being around.
That is true. Yeah. So Dan is forced to watch this. He gets dragged out of the room. And then we see kind of like a montage of the song, the commercial, and then cities all over the US of kids buying and putting the masks on. So they show New York, Dayton, Baton Rouge, Seattle, Phoenix. So it's literally, why are you laughing at me?
I'm not laughing at you. Baton Rouge. I just love how you enunciate it. I would say Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge. I like it.
Baton Rouge. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Either way is right.
So it's just very important to note that everyone, all these kids all over the U.S. are putting the hats on, the masks on.
Yeah. This is nationwide. This isn't just a small town. So, like, all these kids are going to die.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then we cut to the coroner, and she's making some phone calls. Mm-hmm. She is digging for answers that the company does not want her digging for.
Right. She calls the motel, and it's like out of service. The number's out of service.
Yeah. And we see a suit in the background, and he's walking around this coroner area office.
Yeah. I mean, he walks right up to that cabinet like he knows that there's a drill in it.
Yeah.
Like he just marches right on over, opens the drawer, and he's like, perfect.
Maybe because he's a robot. He's like, I can sense another machine.
Oh, it's like my machine cousin.
Yeah. And our poor coroner girl. I liked her.
I liked her too.
I wish she had more of a role in this movie, even though she did appear a lot. Yeah. But I just liked her. I liked her vibe.
I know. I kind of wanted to get to know her.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we don't, because the suit like pins her to the ground, grabs her maybe, I think, by the mouth, covers her mouth.
He like grabs her face, man.
Yeah. Pins her to the ground. And then uses that power drill off camera. But just the motion, like you see him, you hear the drill, you see him start to push, and then there's you know how when you actually are drilling something and then it goes through, that motion.
Oh, God.
It's so gross. Like he's drilling in her head and then,
oh, it reminded me so much of Frankenhooker.
Yes, like, where he's giving himself a lobotomy.
I had to keep looking away. It was making me dry heave. Like just drilling into your own head.
Ugh.
But yeah, he drills right through her ear. It's in her ear. He sticks it in her.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
He's another driller killer, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
He's a lot
of power drill kills.
He's the real thing, you know?
The real deal.
He's a real deal, real driller killer.
So coroner, she's gone.
Yes.
Now we see that Dan is tied up in a chair.
And it's 7:30 p.m.
7:30 p.m. And we know that it's all about to go down at 9:00 p.m.
Yes.
So they're going to do some type of giveaway, right? That's why all the kids are going to gather around, kids.
Big giveaway.
Yeah. And when I say he is tied to a chair, I mean like neck strapped to the chair and all.
Oh, yeah. He is strapped in.
It's like around his hips, his chest, and his neck. That really bothers me.
It's like an electric chair. Like like strapped like an electric chair.
Yeah. But they don't strap your neck, do they?
I don't know. I've never been in one.
But I'm just... But I'm just picturing... I guess have I ever seen a real one? I don't know. Anyway.
I'm thinking of the cover of Shocker.
Okay.
I don't know if he does. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know.
Tell us.
And Mr. Cochran is there. There's a TV in front of him. And here is where Mr. Cochran is giving him all the Irish lore. I use the word lore a lot, I feel, in the past. I don't know, however many episodes, but, you know, horror movies have a lot of lore.
They do.
Yeah,
it fits.
And Mr. Cochran is telling him, and I don't know if I just imagined this, but did Mr. Cochran start to develop more of an Irish accent here? Like, we're starting to find out.
I think it's like his true self is coming out.
That's kind of how I imagined it.
Yeah.
As he was telling the history of Samhain in
Yeah.
Ireland and things like that, and how it connected to what he's doing here, which, long story short, is like a gigantic human sacrifice.
Yes. And it can only happen. The last time they were able to do this was 3,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So they have to do it tonight on Halloween.
Yeah.
And I believe it's like when the planets are in a certain alignment is when, and I guess the original, whenever it happened many years ago, there was a lot of children, specifically children and animal sacrifices.
Yes.
Yikes. Big old yikes.
Big yikes.
Yeah. So basically, Mr. Cochran is a witch or a warlock, whichever you prefer.
Yeah.
So which, you know, season of the witch. We understand that now. But yeah, so he is.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah, he's a witch. He's a witch or a warlock. Yeah.
Okay.
Doing a big old sacrifice.
So he is forcing Dan to watch this TV, which for a moment also shows Halloween 1978. Again.
Love it. Yeah.
And he puts the skeleton mask on him. Dan the man eventually scoots that chair over, which I'm surprised with all those straps on him, like the strap around the neck and everything. I love that they didn't think to, like, I don't know, maybe like secure that chair a little more. But it's great that they didn't, because Dan is able to scoot the chair over, kick in the glass of the TV, and uses it to cut the straps that are on his wrists.
I mean, Dan, that's why I'm telling you, he should have, like, his career as a doctor is great, but man, he is so resourceful. He is so quick thinking in a crisis.
He has to be as a doctor, right?
Okay, yeah, that's true. I guess he chose the right profession.
Either way, it would have been a great profession, yeah. And I was also thinking to myself, damn, you wouldn't be able to do that today with a TV.
No, you wouldn't. I don't think so.
If you kick in an LED TV, it just, I imagine it's the type of glass that kind of doesn't shatter everywhere for safety purposes, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Bummer.
Damn.
Anyway.
Anyway. Also, here, I wrote down Dan, just showing how smooth he is. He takes that skull mask, he tosses the mask onto a camera, a surveillance camera up in the corner in one shot.
It's so perfect.
You had a really fun fact about.
I do. So it actually took over 40 takes to get that shot.
I love that, because I was like, wow, he's so smooth. Not that I assumed they did it in one take, but...
Well, I guess the story is that the director very easily got it on there in one shot, but like that was just luck. So they didn't anticipate it taking 40 takes to get it on there.
I'm also so curious. So did they have Tom Atkins throwing it?
I don't know.
I wonder, because I'm pretty sure in the movie they do it with a cut.
Yeah.
So they don't show, like, it's not like a panned out shot of him tossing it up there and making it.
That is like ring toss. That is like like the like once in a lifetime getting it.
Yeah. But especially if it was taking that many takes and they ended up doing a cut anyway, why not just, like, you know, fake it a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they wanted it to be authentic.
Maybe.
Dan the man. Like, he really is.
But
like,
in the movie, he did it in one shot.
He did. Tom Atkins, baby. We stan.
And I wrote, he's smooth and not just with the ladies.
Winky, winky. Okay. They can't see me, but I'm winking.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. So here's where Cochran, you know, is telling someone on the phone, it's all going to go down at 9 p.m. They're doing the giveaway, yada, yada. Dan is obviously escaping, and he starts climbing through the vents.
Oh, again, so smooth. He gets his ass through the vents, and he's kind of like, he gets out on the roof, and he's climbing around, and he gets to the other side of the factory because he knows that Ellie is somewhere still in the factory, and he wants to save her.
He gets to, like, the warehouse area.
Yeah.
Lots of boxes. He finds a phone, and he calls his ex.
We had different takes on this.
Yes. Because he's calling his ex to tell her, you need to get rid of those masks. He knows that his kids have those masks.
Yeah.
So that's his first thought, protect his children. And he's telling her, you need to get rid of them. You need to get rid of them. And she's pissed.
Yeah.
She's like, she accuses him of being drunk.
Uh-huh.
And I think, what did you say here?
I said, because he's like, it's like he's whispering into the phone, but he sounds very panicked, in my opinion.
Yeah, he has to be quiet, so he's whispering.
And so, on the one hand, I understand why she's sick of his shit because he's been calling and like blowing her off and blowing the kids off. So, on the one hand, I do get it. However, you can tell by someone's voice that they're panicked. And he sounded panicked to me. He didn't sound drunk. He sounded very concerned. And I feel like it bothered me that she didn't hear that tone at all. Yeah. However, she didn't hear that tone and she wasn't receptive to that tone because of his actions earlier in the movie.
Right. I think she's going into it with already a preconceived notion. Yeah. About her ex-husband.
For sure.
When someone's whispering, I also think it's harder to hear the tone.
True.
And also 1980s telephones.
Yeah, it's like maybe it's not clear. Yeah. Yeah, there's like so many reasons for it. It's just as the viewer, I was like, oh my God, he's trying to save the kids.
Yeah. I think also just from my own childhood, I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there. So I understand the other side of it of like, oh, you're just blowing us off.
Yeah.
Childhood trauma.
No, I totally get it. I appreciate that point of view for sure. Yeah.
But either way, he's being sincere. He's really trying to protect his children. And Dan does kind of give up on that phone call, I guess. Or maybe she hangs up on him. And he eventually does find Ellie in a small empty room strapped to a table. So he gets her free. They start to flee.
Oh my God. The best is when they hide. They like hide behind a rolling like shelf of masks, carts of masks, and then it reminded me of like a cartoon. Yeah, like they hide behind it while they're like rolling it, and you can just see like their little feet like pitter pattering.
Yeah, it reminded me of like Scooby-Doo or something.
Yeah, totally. I loved it. Yeah.
And so they're like maneuvering around, they're hiding. Dan finds one of the mask tags on the ground.
Yes, and we keep seeing clocks, by the way, and the time is ticking down. We're getting closer and closer to 9 o'clock, so you're really feeling the pressure and the time crunch.
Yeah. And so he sneaks over to what looks like a motherboard. Yeah. A bunch of buttons.
Oh, he sneaks like he's like a cat.
I was really surprised that none of the robot men saw him. Or I guess I don't know if they're robots, but the guys in the lab coats.
The droids? Yeah, I don't think they did, but I was surprised they didn't.
Yes. So he gets to this motherboard and he starts pushing a bunch of buttons.
All the buttons.
Which was interesting to me because I'm like, did he know which buttons to press or was it just a coincidence? Because
I think he just was like, he wanted to create some kind of diversion. Yeah. So he's like, maybe if I just press all these buttons,
he did press a lot.
He did, yeah.
And it starts playing the commercial on all of the monitors around these lab coat guys.
Yes, and the speakers are like, it's very loud. Yeah. The commercial song is very loud.
So now they're able to maneuver around a little better. And so while this is happening, the commercial's playing. Dan and Ellie dump a box full of those tags onto all the lab coat guys from above. And because
it's like raining silver shamrock coins.
Yes. And because the commercial is playing, I'm assuming, those tags start to take effect and all of the robot men start short-circuiting. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's really neat. Yeah, because in don't they start, isn't there like blue, like the blue, I'm calling them lasers. They're not lasers.
It's like a beam.
Like blue beams. And they're, beam. Yes.
Yep. So I wrote down, so it's the song, I'm assuming, is what makes those tags go into effect.
I don't know if it's the songs,
or the commercial, or a combination of all of it.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, I guess, and the fact that Stonehenge is right there, like the actual rock is right there. Yeah, they were all in a circle. I think there's like a lot of reasons why. Yeah, I don't know. You guys probably know. Anyone that loves this movie who's really dug into it, you tell us. I just assumed, like it had to do with all of those things.
All the things connected, yeah, especially based on what we'll see in the ending. Right. I think so. So
I wrote Mr. Cochran looks thrilled.
He's thrilled. So this does cause a blue beam to kind of go in a circle around all these monitors. Yes. Where they were standing. And
the Stonehenge block is now like glowing.
Yeah. And so Stonehenge block sends a blue beam right through Mr. Cochran.
Oh, yeah.
Into that circle. And Mr. Cochran, they zoom in on his face. He looks like he's freeze dried for a second.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. And then he just evaporates.
He is like, yes, just into the ethers.
I was surprised. I thought he was going to explode in a very 80s fashion.
I know, but I liked that he didn't. I liked that he just evaporated.
Yeah.
Because that's even scarier, that it could just evaporate you.
Yeah. Nothing is left.
Yeah.
And so instead of Mr. Cochran exploding, Stonehenge kind of appears to explode. Or
Yeah.
there's some type of like
electrical,
situation going on.
Yeah.
So that happens.
And the building catches fire.
Oh, yeah. That's very important to
The
note,
factory
too.
catches fire.
Which is what the local earlier wanted to do. He wanted to burn the place down.
And
so.
you know what? Dan lived out that man's dream.
Yeah.
Burned it down.
So Dan and Ellie are trying to escape now. They're driving away.
Yes.
And
it's worth I remember even like when I first saw this movie, I remember thinking like, why hasn't Ellie said a gosh darn thing yet?
I didn't think that at all.
She has not. I remember being like, why are you not talking?
Yeah, okay. Because Dan is like kind of mumbling different things to himself here, right? Like,
yeah, like Dan is reacting the way I think anyone would react. Like he's just like, oh, we got to make sure that we get home. We got to get the kids to we got to stop that commercial.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of like talking to her about what they're going to be doing and like how they're going to escape. And Ellie is not saying anything. She hasn't even when he rescued her, she didn't say anything to him.
I didn't think about that, but that's a good point. I wasn't thinking about it. Sometimes I just turn my brain off when I watch movies. I'm just like experiencing it.
No, me too, for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, so.
But that's a good point. Now looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, she was eerily quiet.
Yeah.
And here, she's just staring at Dan as he's talking. Mm-hmm. And then she starts ripping at his face.
Yeah, because he's kind of like.
He looks over like,
he's
hello?
Like, is everything all right?
Yeah, acknowledge me.
Hello, I'm right here. Remember we made out?
More than that.
Wink.
So she starts ripping at his face. He's swerving. I thought this was a great swerve, by the way, speaking of swerves. And he crashes into a tree.
Yeah.
So he goes around the car after this and he's going to the open car door on the passenger side, and all you see is her detached arm hanging off the handle, and you see that it's electrical.
They turned her into a freaking droid, man.
Oh my gosh.
They did, yeah.
So they get into a fight with Robot Ellie and Dan, and I wrote, he knocks her block off. Because he literally knocks her head off eventually.
Yeah, he does. I felt bad for Dan in that scene, man.
I felt bad for Ellie. And
yeah.
I was also really hoping that there was I was hoping that there was still a real Ellie somewhere and that they just like, I don't know, cloned her.
Body doubled her?
Yeah, as a robot. And
Yeah.
that she was still somewhere else as a human, but doesn't look like it, folks.
It's sad.
So they show her body and her head lying next to each other after he knocks it off. Mm-hmm. And I liked the scene a lot. Like her eyes are still moving, but her body is next to her face down.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then Dan goes to get in the car and her arm that was attached to the passenger side starts choking him.
It's great. It's really cool. Like, what is it, Thing from the Addams Family?
Oh, yeah, but like the full arm attached.
Yeah, but the full arm. Yeah, it's cool. It's a really cool scene.
Yeah, starts choking him. He gets it off of him. And then her headless, one-armed body starts to attack him.
Yeah.
But finally dies.
Yeah.
I don't think he really even had to fight it off. It was like...
Yeah, I think that was like her last, like what do they say in Scream? One last scare?
Yeah.
That was like her one last scare.
Yeah. So Dan gets away. He gets back to the gas station and we see Hector again.
Oh, I'm so happy that Hector makes it.
Yeah, I wrote Hector, ! From the beginning.
We like Hector.
I was excited.
Yeah, me too.
And Dan finally gets to a phone. Mm-hmm. And a phone that works, by the way, and isn't just an operator saying your call cannot be completed.
Yeah, because he's no longer in that town.
Yeah.
And it is 8:58 p.m.
2 minutes until this commercial is going to go live, which I also was wondering at the time until I saw this scene, until I saw that he was still trying to get on the phone. I'm like, the whole place blew up. Like, is it still going to air?
Yeah.
But obviously they already had it set in motion.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure.
So he is yelling to someone on the phone, you have to get it off the air. You've got to believe me. No, I can't prove it. You've got to believe me.
Yep.
We see a kid come into the gas station with a mask on, one of the masks. And they turn on the TV, which I love how I'm like, what is this like public TV just in this gas station?
Yeah, he just walks in and he's just like, yeah, my TV now.
Yeah, turns it on. It's 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
The Silver Shamrock commercial starts playing. And Dan is just yelling to this person, you have to take it down. You've got to believe me. And as the commercial starts playing, all of a sudden it says, technical difficulties or something along those lines.
Yeah, technical difficulties. Please stand by. Something
Perfect.
Like that.
The kid just turns the channel.
Yeah.
Back to the commercial.
Bum, 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 bum,
I was like, oh shit. And Dan is also like, no, you got to take it off. You got to take it off. Same thing. Technical difficulties. Kid turns the channel again. Song starts playing again.
Yep.
And Dan's telling him, whoever's on the phone, it's on a third channel. You have to take it down. You have to take it down. He's begging him to get it off of this third channel. He's yelling, stop it, stop it, stop it, over and over and over. That's how the movie ends.
Yep.
Dan yelling, stop it, into the camera.
What a great finish.
I was like, I looked to you and I said, so they didn't stop it? We don't know.
We don't know. Tom Atkins has said in interviews that he likes to think that they did and all the kids were fine. I've heard that there are alternate endings or that they shot multiple endings. So who knows? I know there is a novel. This was made into a novel or vice versa, but I think it was made into a novel. And in the novel, he doesn't stop it in time. And then all the kids, well, we know what happens to them.
I read a little fun fact that they were going to, as the credits were rolling or something, that they were going to have a sound playing, implying, like all the kids screaming.
I would have loved that.
I understand why they chose not to do it and why they chose to leave it open.
Yeah.
I don't hate that they left it open in this case.
No, I don't either. I like it.
I think personally I do like thinking that he was able to stop it. More for him, more for Dan, because he tried so hard. Really even though I should say for the children, but for these fictional children, you're like rolling your eyes, whatever. Kids, no, just kidding. You know that sound on Instagram? Whatever. I was gonna say the whole thing, but I won't. I like to think that because Dan went through all that trouble, that he was able to save them and his own children. He had 2 children in this movie.
Yeah, I do too. I like to think that he stopped it. He got home. He became a good dad.
Yeah.
He became a present father.
Yeah.
He mended his not relationship with the mother, but maybe they're on speaking terms now. I like to think all those things. However, the other side of me is like, I hope the opposite. I hope all those kids' heads melted. And there are bugs everywhere.
I want chaos.
I mean, I do.
You just like when it's not a happy ending sometimes?
Sometimes, but I also, I love an open-ended ending when it's intentional.
Yes, I love it when it doesn't feel like it was just lazy.
Yeah.
And it does not feel lazy here. It feels like they just want you to be able to choose if you want to have hope or not.
It's a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
No, for real. It's so true because there are movies where it's left open-ended and in the back of my mind I'm going like, did you just not know how to end this?
Exactly.
That bothers me.
Yeah. And in this case, it feels like, no, you have 2 options. Either he stopped it or he didn't.
Yeah. And like you're saying, for his sake, I do hope, because I like Dan as a character. Yeah. I like him. I think he's a very flawed human being. Mm-hmm. He really, really is.
Yeah.
But it being Tom Atkins, and the fact that he really, it's so weird. I feel like we could dissect his behavior.
Yeah. Which I enjoy doing, actually.
I do too. Like the fact that he was so hell-bent on getting to the bottom of all of the factory, of the masks, of all of that. It's interesting to me that he put so much energy into that and he didn't have the same type of energy for his kids.
Yeah.
And his family.
Yeah.
And I wonder if like part of him is like, I'm not a great dad. I'm going to get to the bottom of this thing. Because that feels like tangible.
This feels like I can do something about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
And some people also, they're more career driven than they are family driven.
Totally.
Doesn't mean he doesn't care about his kids.
Right.
But it's just like, this is my job. This is my duty. I took an oath. I don't know. Doctors take oaths, right?
I think so.
To like protect. No, that's like police. That's to protect and serve.
But I think they do take some kind of oath. Doctors do.
Yeah. HIPAA or something.
I don't know.
At the very least. Yeah.
You guys know. You know what we're talking about. We don't, but you do.
Yeah. But yes, I agree with you. I think that he really got it was very interesting to see, because also I can imagine a doctor going, okay, that ain't my job. I'm not going to investigate this.
No, for sure.
I have to move on to the next patient.
Absolutely.
Which also would make sense to me.
No, totally. So as a whole, I love this movie. I really do. I think it would have done so much better if it wasn't, like, I think it would have been more well received back in the day if it had a different title.
Yes. I really did like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that it could have been a standalone movie, like we mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have been better off. I don't know how I feel, especially now in retrospect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about it being a Halloween, because
Mm-hmm.
it's the only one without Michael, even though we kind of talked about how technically he's in it on the TV. But I don't know how I feel about it as part of the Halloween franchise, but I do like the movie.
Yeah, no, totally. It's funny how some people really don't like it.
Yeah.
And I do think it's just because of the title.
Yeah, I think it's understandable.
People like won't give it a chance.
Yeah. At the time, if there had only been 2 Halloweens and then this one came out, I don't know that I'd really feel as strongly about it. But because there are so many Halloweens now in the franchise, and that's the only one that's the weird one.
It's like the black sheep of the Halloween. Yeah.
Then I am like, oh, I wish it wasn't a part of the franchise. But also, I'm not. It's not something that affects me, so I'm not like sitting here like, oh, it needs to not be a part of the franchise, you know?
No, and it is. Like, that's the, we could talk about it all day long till we're blue in the face. It is part of it. It's part of that universe.
Whether you like it or not.
Who knows? Like, it's all connected somehow.
Yeah.
It is. It's there. It's part of the franchise. I love it. I think it's a gem of a movie. If you haven't given it a shot, please do. Try it. And look at it through the lens of, this is just a movie. It's not a Michael Myers movie. It's not a Halloween movie. It's just a fun movie that takes place on Halloween.
There you go.
With great masks.
Yeah, great masks.
And great characters.
That is something I would get a replica of, the masks.
Me too. I really want to start collecting masks. Like,
Where are you going to put them?
Exactly. That's exactly why I haven't yet.
So basically, we need to buy bigger houses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we have somewhere to store giant replica masks.
And also where we can build a studio so that we do not have to keep driving back and forth from Detroit to Buffalo.
Oh, yeah. We talked about this in a different episode. We're just going to get a mansion.
A big old spooky manor.
A spooky manor, yeah.
Like in Hell Night.
Minus the undead.
Could you imagine having those tunnels, though? Ooh.
No. I'm good without the tunnels.
Yeah, in case you guys didn't know that, we travel back and forth to record our episodes, and we usually do them in bulk.
Yes. So if we seem a little delirious sometimes, it's probably because we are.
Because we're on episode, what were we on? 7. Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
And you can also tell where we are if you're watching the YouTube video by our background.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like right now, we're in Laura's house.
One day, we will not have to do that.
Yeah.
One day, we'll have a studio or we'll have somewhere we can record together.
Hell yeah.
And we'll have all the toys and all the masks. And all the spooky that we want.
Can't wait. We're manifesting that.
So if you guys...
I feel like that's a very, I don't know, popular thing for people to say right now.
Manifesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll manifest it. Well, you guys help us out because you guys listen and we appreciate it. And if you haven't already, please give us a 5-star review. It really does help our podcast grow. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can actually see us.
Yes.
Hang out with us.
We put a lot of effort into these videos, into our outfits, into our different makeup looks for each episode, even when we're doing 7 in one bulk taping.
No, it's true. And we try to keep the background fun. We have little toys on display.
Yeah.
It's just a fun hangout. So if you could subscribe, that would help us out. Like it, hit the bell, comment. You can follow us on all our social medias.
Yes, at Chainsaw. Wait.
You got it. At Chainsaw Girls Pod. You know
yes,
it.
At Chainsaw Girls Pod. I totally got this. Instagram, TikTok. That's our YouTube as well. chainsawgirlspod@gmail.com is our email.
Yeah, if you want to send us suggestions, you just want to talk to us, you just want to give us some bits and pieces on different movies. Also, you guys know a lot of stuff about horror. So if we miss things in episodes, please feel free to tell us because I want to know. I'd love learning more and more about these movies.
Yeah, as long as you don't do it in a rude way, I'm totally open to that.
Yeah, give it, and you know what? Criticism too, man. We'll just
Sure.
give it all to us.
Sure.
We appreciate it. Okay, bye.